walls toward the street where his car was parked in readiness. He nodded in his usual genial way at the police officer atop the steps by the portico door and noted that Joe, his faithful driver of many years, was coming around the limousine to open the rear door. He took no notice of the muffled figure that rose from a bench down the sidewalk and began to move. The figure was clothed in a long, dark overcoat, unbuttoned at the front but held closed by hands inside. There was some kind of fretted skull cap on the head, and the only odd thing, had anyone been looking, which they were not, was that beneath the coat there were no jeans-clad legs but some kind of a white dress. It would later be established the garment was an Arab dishdash. Jerry Dermott was almost at the open car door when a voice called, "Congressman." He turned to the call. The last thing he saw on earth was a swarthy face staring at him, eyes somehow vacant as if staring at something else far away. The overcoat fell open, and the barrels of a sawed-off shotgun rose from where they had dangled inside the fabric. The police would later establish that both barrels were fired simultaneously, and that the cartridges were loaded with heavy-gauge buckshot, not the tiny granules for birds. The range was around 10 feet. Due to the shortness of the sawn barrels, the shot spread was immediately wide. Some of the steel balls went past the congressman on both sides, and a few hit Joe, causing him to turn and reel back. He had a sidearm under his jacket, but his hands went to his face, and he never used it. The officer atop the steps saw it all, drew his revolver, and came running down. The assailant threw both hands in the air, the right hand gripping the shotgun, and screamed something. The officer could not know whether the second barrel had been used, and he fired 3 times, at 20 feet, and practiced with his piece. He could hardly miss. His 3 slugs took the shouting man in the center mass of the chest and threw him backward. He hit the trunk of the limousine, bounced off, fell forward, and died face down in the gutter. Figures appeared from the portico doorway, saw the 2 bodies down, the chauffeur staring at his bleeding hands, the policeman standing over the assailant, gun double-hand gripped, pointing downward. They ran back inside to call for backup. 2 bodies were removed to the city morgue, and Joe to the hospital for attention to the 3 pellets that had lodged in his face. The congressman was dead, chest penetrated by over 20 steel balls that had entered his heart and lungs. So also the assailant. The latter, stripped naked on the morgue slab, gave no clue to his identity. There were no personal papers and, oddly, no body hair save his beard. But his face in the evening papers yielded 2 informants. The dean of a college on the edge of town identified a student of Jordanian parentage, and the landlady of a boarding house recognized one of her lodgers. Detectives ransacking the dead man's room took away many books in Arabic and his personal laptop computer. The latter was downloaded in the police technical lab. It revealed something no one in the Boise Police Headquarters had ever seen before. The hard drive contained a series of lectures or sermons by a masked figure staring at the screen with blazing eyes and preaching in fluent English. The message was brutal and simple. The true believer should undergo his own personal conversion from heresy to Muslim truth. He should, within the confines of his own soul, confiding in and trusting no one, convert to jihad and become a true and loyal soldier of Allah. Then he should seek out some notable person in the service of the great Satan and send him to hell, then die as a shaheed, a martyr, and ascend to dwell in Allah's paradise forever. There were a score of these sermons, all with the same message. The police passed the evidence to the Boise office of the FBI, who passed the entire file to the J. Edgar Hoover building in Washington. At the national HQ of the Bureau, there was no surprise. They had heard of the preacher before. 1968. Mrs. Lucy Carson went into labor on 8 November and was taken straight to the natal wing of the Naval Hospital at Camp Pendleton, California, where she and her husband were based. 2 days later, her first, and as it turned out, only son, was born. He was named Christopher after his paternal grandfather, but since that senior U.S. Marine officer was always called Chris, and to avoid confusion, the baby was nicknamed Kit, the reference to the old frontiersman being entirely coincidental. Also fortuitous was the birth date, November 10th, the date of the birth of the United States Marine Corps in 1775. Captain Alvin Carson was away in Vietnam.